Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Fernando, and my topic has to be on is on minimum wage being raised. So minimum wage has always been a controversial topic here in the United States, and people think should it be raised, should it not be raised, and there's always some pros and cons to both sides, but I believe that there's more cons to this topic. And one of those cons has to do with the fact that if we were to raise the minimum wage, it will result in unemployment. The reasons why I believe that it will result in unemployment is because the first reason is that small businesses will hire fewer people. The second reason why I believe that raising the minimum wage will result in unemployment is because small businesses will either close or even decline their own services. The third and final reason why I believe that raising the minimum wage will lead to unemployment is because entry-level jobs will be more difficult to obtain. So with this in mind, let me begin with my first reason on how raising the minimum wage will result in unemployment. So the first reason is that small businesses will hire fewer people. If there's less people being hired, that just means that there's more people who are unemployed, right? It's clearly easy to understand. So David J. Cooper, who's a professor of economics from the Florida State University, says that raising the minimum wage by just $1 can cost small business owners tens of thousands of dollars in additional payroll costs each year, dipping into their bottom line and making it more difficult to turn them into profit. So as a business perspective, you have to think of it. Everyone wants to make money, right? And they always have a profit margin. And what profit margin means is that, say for a certain year, they want to make $1,000, right? They already have that in mind, and they have to pay off their employees. And if we raise that minimum wage, they're not going to be hiring people because they have that profit margin in mind, and their goal is to get that money. And if they have to get that money, they're not going to be hiring more people, and they're just forced to employ less people, ultimately leading to unemployment. To further convey this subject, a survey done by T-Sheets, they interviewed some businesses, and 28% of the businesses that they interviewed admit that a higher minimum wage would restrict them from hiring additional help and therefore growing their business. If we're not allowing these small businesses to grow their businesses, like they won't even hire more people, and we want them to grow because if businesses grow, they can hire more people, right? It's pretty easy to understand. And so if we're restricting them by raising the minimum wage, we're just resulting in unemployment. It's just not a good thing. And then ultimately, if there's unemployment, poverty would increase as well. A stat from the United States Department of Commerce says that 39.7 million people were poor in 2017. This works out to 12.3% of the population, or 1 in 8 Americans are poor. And it's just not fair, and if we just raise the unemployment rate, it will ultimately lead to it just being even worse. Moving on to the second reason why I believe that raising the minimum wage will result in unemployment is that small businesses will close and decline. Many small businesses obviously have workers that work there, and if they would have to let go of some current employees. David J. Cooper, who is the same professor at the Florida State University, says that 500 small business owners across the country, out of all of them, 14% say that they will be forced to let go of employees when the minimum wage raises in their state. And if they're going to be letting go of those employees will just have an even harder job to get another job. Say if we had the minimum wage at $15, it would be even harder to get a job for them to get it, and just ultimately the unemployment rate would just increase. These people would need to find another job, and it may be difficult, and then ultimately just leads to less people working. My third reason why I believe that raising the minimum wage will lead to unemployment is because entry-level jobs will be more difficult to obtain. Many jobs fail to hire many people due to financial circumstances. So a hypothetical reason again, say the minimum wage was $15, people would want to hire people, business owners would want to hire people with better experience. For example, if I was to put myself in the shoe of a business owner, I wouldn't want to be hiring someone who doesn't have that much experience, and I would rather hire someone with more experience. If already now it's hard for us to get a job because they want us to have work experience, imagine if they have to pay $15 to their minimum wage employees, they wouldn't want to hire someone who does not have experience even more. Another reason for this to continue is that it also hurts our future. So here's a personal example, right? I'm pretty sure we're all here in college because we want to get a higher education and just get a higher paying job, right? And if not, we wouldn't be here in college. So who here already works in a minimum wage job or a job? I'm pretty sure most of us work at a job, right? And we're all here because we don't want to be there that much, right? But if we were to raise the minimum wage, sure, it would feel like it benefits us right now, but in the long run, it really would not. The reason why I believe this is because if people are already forced to pay their minimum wage employees, say $15 an hour, and we want to get a job later on, they have to focus with the fact that they're paying those minimum wage workers $15, but then the people who are like in a higher job position, it'll be harder for them to get it. I don't know if you guys have heard of this app called LinkedIn. That's basically kind of like an online resume, and that they check like how many years of experience you have working, and especially like when you get out of college, you think, oh, I might be able to get a job really fast, but in many jobs, many times they're like, oh, we need you to have 3 years of experience working in this field that you majored in, right? But in reality, that's not the case. And if we were to raise the minimum wage, the years of experience would want to increase because they're going to be paying people more. And then ultimately, also technology can take our place. And for example, I'm pretty sure everyone has gone to Walmart and seen like the self-checkouts. It's already happening. If we're to raise the minimum wage, we're just speeding up the process of technology taking our place. And in conclusion, raising the minimum wage will obviously lead to unemployment, as I have stated before. And I'll leave you guys with a quote from Warren Buffett, an entrepreneur and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. I don't have anything against raising the minimum wage, but I don't think you can do it in a significant enough way without creating a lot of distortions. One of the distortions obviously being unemployment increasing. Thank you.
For the rough draft?
Yes, you'll bring it next time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Fernando, you do have a proposition. It's a little more buried than it ought to be at the beginning of the speech, but we do know, because you say it a couple of times in the presentation, what the proposition is. The subject matter of the minimum wage is straightforward. That's no issue. It's just that your main argument is that it's going to result in unemployment. And I do think that you indicate that. Like I said, I think you could just highlight it a little bit more in the opening section. The sign, there's a good preview of what the supporting structures are going to be. I can tell what all of the points are and where we're headed, so that part is solid. I think you need to tell us a little bit more about what's controversial about this, that people are pushing for an increased minimum wage, that California's already authorized increased wages that are going to go up to $15 an hour within, like 3 more years, or whatever the number of years is. I forget exactly where we are at this particular point. So make it a little bit more active. That this is a thing that's going on right now, that people are pushing for this, that states are accepting it, and there are going to be consequences to doing it. That's why we're talking about it right now. I think you could do that and make it more effective. When you get to the body of the speech, you do a good job indicating what the subpoints are every time you're talking about them. I'm not sure that I got a substantial difference between a couple of the points. It's like they'll hire fewer people, and then they'll be reducing the number of people that work for them. I do see those as being different claims, but I'm not sure that you explain them as being different claims. And it really just sounds like it's all information about how jobs are going to dry up, there are going to be fewer of them, and in the long run, there's not really a lot of information about businesses closing. You suggest on the second point that that's a possibility, but the only evidence that you have is that there's going to be a decline in, or their employers are saying they're going to let some employees go, and it's only some of them that said they're going to be forced to let employees go. So I don't know how substantial that's going to be. I think that that's a part of the argument that could be a little bit stronger. You did a good job citing your sources, telling us who it is that you are quoting, why we ought to be listening to them. There's some good statistical information that is presented on each of those points. I thought you did a good job on that. There's a lot of explanation in your arguments, especially on that third point, where there isn't really a lot of evidence, but there's a whole explanation. Well, logically, here's how it would work, and you can see why this would be. I think you need some evidence on this, that employers you kind of mentioned the idea of LinkedIn. Well, employers are going to look at LinkedIn and say, you know, has anybody had a job before that paid them $15 an hour? And they're going to say, no. Why would I hire somebody at $15 an hour to do this? I'm sure there's somebody who is willing to say that this is going to be a barrier for them. And I appreciate the idea that you've got here and the notion that this is going to be a problem. There's also other parallels that you can use to illustrate this. For example, the difficulty of teens getting jobs already exists because they don't have the experience, because employers don't see value in paying somebody. You know, there's already a barrier there. Some states have lowered minimum wages for teen employees, for instance. And if you could see that there's a higher rate of employment in those places, that might support your position a little bit too. So I just think that there's a shortage of information there. The automation argument, I think, is an important argument. It probably should be its own point, or you should figure out a better way to make sure that it fits into these arguments. I think it might actually fit into your second point a little bit better, suggesting that what they will do is they'll reduce the number of employees that they have by automating in this particular situation, and that's how a business can stay, you know, functioning. If they can't do that, then they're likely to disappear or stop expanding, like you talk about. If they do continue to function, the way they're going to do it is by automating those jobs to keep their costs down, and that's going to have a problem on jobs. So I think that it belongs in the argument. I'm just not sure that you've got it in the right place. It feels like it's a tag-end argument, almost like a fourth point that doesn't get developed as a fourth point, and it might fit better into one of the other issues. All right, thank you.